Everybody, please keep your spine erect. Chin away from your chest. Shift your eye gaze to the third eye, the center of the eyebrows. Jyotishmati, the light of awareness within. Take a deep breath and exhale. Let's do our opening chant. Join me if you can. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrutyorma Amrutangamayam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everybody for the 10YEC Youth Excellence Center weekly satsang. And for the past several weeks, we've been exploring, inquiring about the applied yoga into contemporary lives, particularly about cultivating the entrepreneurial mindset in the youth so that the youth can design excellence in the world, both inner and outer world. I'm super delighted to have my two gurus. I call them as my Krishna's Pal gurus. Number one, Shriram Sarvotham ji, and then Rajesh Setty. Both of them are here to join our panel discussion today. And I'll have both of them introduce themselves in just a moment. The topic that we're going to explore today is continuing from what we covered in the last two sessions. Number one is what is the essence of yoga and how it applies to our contemporary lives. And then last week, we explored about the two primary keys, Abhyasa and Vairagya. What is a good practice and what is the right way of engaging in the practice, in the journey of the yoga, the dispassionate way of expression. So today we are going to further embellish now that we have Shriramji also here, and then we'll try to connect that to some of the contemporary frameworks like Mihala Flow, Carolyn Dweck's growth mindset, and some of those things, so that we can try to celebrate the oneness that many of the rishis from different parts of the world, how they perceived the truth of yoga. So without much further ado, Shriramji, you want to introduce yourself, and while doing that, every time you are here, we would love to hear the Patanjali Stotram in your divine voice.
Thank you, Sriniji. Let me chant the Dhyana Shloka. Yastektva rupamadyam prabhavati jagato nekadanugrahaya prakshina klesha rashir vishama vishadaro anekavaktra subhogi sarvajnana prasutir bhujaga parikaro pritaye yasya nityam devo hi shassavo vyat sita vimalatanur yogado yoga yuktaha yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi abahu purushakaram shankachakrasidharinam sahasrashirasam shvetam pranamami patanjalim Shrimate Anantaya Nagarajaya namo namaha asmadacharyebhyo sarvebhyo namo namaha. Om. Thank you so much, Sriniji, for giving me another opportunity to be part of this insightful discussions on different topics of yoga. So a brief introduction, a few words about myself. I've been a student of yoga since 1986. So about 36 years, I've been partaking in the joy of practicing yoga, delving into the wisdom of yoga, and also to share the joy, sharing yoga in the role of a teacher. So over the last so many decades, it has given me great joy, and it continues to give me joy, the practice and the wisdom of yoga. So I'm delighted to be with everyone, and thank you, Sriniji, for once again inviting me to this panel discussion.
Awesome. Rajesh, so good to have you here. I know you're a regular participant and a panelist in our entrepreneurial journey, and love to have you introduce yourself and also share a little bit about your yoga journey.
So when it's difficult to follow Shriramji, it looks like there is a sage and I have a cowboy following a sage. So I'll do my best. So I do three things. I've started a bunch of companies, about 12 of them since 2000. Two of them got acquired, two of them crashed and burned. So I know how to do it one way or the other. You make them fly or crash them down. So the score is 2-2. With all your love, support and blessings, I'll hope to improve my score. That's my first goal. Second is I write books. I've written 18 books so far. First book was published when I was 13 after getting rejected 160 times. If there was a Guinness Book of World Records for how to get rejected, I will be on the number 1 there. There's no question about it. Since there is no category, I didn't make it to the Guinness Book. And lastly, I teach courses for entrepreneurs on how to build bring their idea to life without losing their balance. And last but not the least, my yoga I started in 2007 when I met with Sri Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev. And since that day to now, I have skipped only 2 days. So once I get into my practice, I just make it my part of my being. And I no longer think that I'm practicing this because that's me. So and every day I meditate. And since about 6 years ago, I started writing what are called NapkinSights. So I wish I said I have started writing. It's not mine. Whatever comes to my mind, I write. And then sometimes it looks profound. Sometimes it just makes me think, but it's not mine. It's something, whatever comes, it's there. I have 3,200 of them now. And my designer friend is visualizing them. He's at 1,500 to 1,600. Sometimes I read them and I think, oh, I wrote it. It's surprising to me also. So that's who I am.
So fantastic. And for the first time, I've heard the right definition of the yoga. Yogi is a sage and also a cowboy. What a great connecting the dots.
Oh.
That's fantastic. So we have another, my partner, which is Savita from Toronto. She's part of our YEC team. And she's also a cowboy, but a Canada cowboy. So Savita, you want to introduce yourself?
I was like, the student who thinks, please don't call my name. That's where I was at this point. After two great people, introduce themselves, like I have nothing to say. I'm a student here. I love to learn, so please share away your gems. I'm a very newbie to the yoga, journey. But it has somehow connected over years of somehow doing it for the weight loss journey. It has connected in a different way this time. So hope to continue and be part of this bigger community. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Savita. So Shriramji, now that we have here, so I would like you to share a little bit of your own reflections about the two keys, as you always refer to, the practice and the vairagya. So if you could share a little bit about the essence of what is a good practice, and then how does it need to complement with the right vairagya? And share. Some people have the perception that why did Patanjali put both of them together, the Abhyasa and vairagya? Why couldn't he separate them out? Because some people, Savita ji had a fantastic comment last time, which is like, sometimes I use my vairagya for Abhyasa, which is like, so if you would love to share your perspective on why those two keys are perfect complementary.
Yes, in fact, this topic of Abhyasa and Vairagya fascinated me right from the beginning, because you find it in so many yoga scriptures. The Yoga Sutras, of course, Patanjali mentions Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam Tannirodha. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says Abhyasena Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grishyate. My teacher used to give a very beautiful analogy. Vairagya without Abhyasa is like a twig in the ocean. It gets tossed and turned. It doesn't set its own direction. It is okay where it is, but it gets tossed around, moving around with the tides. It doesn't set a determination of its own. When we combine Abhyasa there, so Abhyasa is like we set a goal. Okay, I want to reach that destination. So there's a direction that is set. So regardless of which current the ocean is moving, we want to reach a specific destination. And without vairagya, sometimes we struggle together. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? The mind makes this hankering to reach that destination very fast. Whereas Abhyasa plus vairagya, when both are there, it is like a majestic ship. It is moving and it is peaceful. So when you see a big ship moving along the ocean, there is a majesty to it. It's okay where it is. At the same time, it has it's very clear where it wants to go. The direction has been set. So what is a good Abhyasa? Patanjali beautifully describes. He gives 4 ingredients of high quality Abhyasa. And the sutra where he defines that is Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantarya Satkara Asevito Dridabhumihi. So Dirgha Kala, doing the practice for a long time. That means it's a long-term commitment. Like Rajesh ji mentioned, since 2007. So missing just 2 days. In other words, it's not a weekend thing. Nobody can say, I've been an ardent practitioner of yoga. I've been doing yoga for every day for the last 2 days. I mean, it's okay. Even 1 day of yoga practice has its own rewards, but true benefits of yoga come in the long term. So that is the first ingredient, long-term commitment to the practice of yoga. Second is Nairantarya, without a break. Or even if we give a break, maximum 2 days in 15 years. You see? So we don't give a break in our sleep. Every day we make sure we have our requirement of food, requirement of sleep. Like that, our Abhyasa becomes a part of our life without a break. And why should we not have a break? Because each day, I mean, this is what my teacher used to say. And also I've heard this from Sri Ravi Shankarji. He says, each day when we wake up, a subset of the neurons in the brain, they awake and carry us throughout the day. It's a small fraction, about 10% of the neurons awake, and the rest 90% are resting and they're rejuvenating for the next day. So if we don't do sadhana today, that means we are depriving that 10% of the opportunity to give them the benefit. You see, so every day we have to practice without a break. And then the third ingredient is satkara. Satkara means to do the practice with honor and respect, with enthusiasm, not with a grumbling attitude. Oh, I have to drag my body in the yoga mat, and then the body doesn't like to do the practice. It is screaming. It wants to sleep for 5 more minutes. But satkara means you wake up, you look at the time, 4 a.m. Wow, with a beaming smile, you jump into the yoga mat with full enthusiasm. That is satkara. And then asevito is doing the practice with an attitude of serving the body and mind. So these 4 ingredients Patanjali describes, and Dridabhumihi. When these 4 are established, then the benefits of yoga are firmly grounded, he says. So that is Abhyasa. And as far as Vairagya is concerned, he gives 2 sutras. And with that, I will close. I think I've taken too much time already. So in Vairagya, he gives a 2-step recipe. Vairagya literally means Vitaraga. That means you have transcended beyond hankering or craving, Vitaraga or Vairagya. So Vairagya, 2 steps. The first step is recognizing that outside events or outside objects or outside situations do not give lasting happiness. Recognition of that is the first step of Vairagya. So suppose we think, oh, if I get iPhone 13, I'll be the happiest person in the world. And then maybe we'll be happy for like 2.5 days, but then the mind hankers for iPhone 14, right? So there's always a target that is in the future that will make me happy. So recognizing that outside conditions give only ephemeral joy, not eternal joy. That is first step. That is what Patanjali says. He defines Vairagya as Drishtanush Ravika Vishaya Vitrishnasya Vashikara Samya Vairagyam. That means outside objects, we drop the thirst for it because we are wise to recognize that it doesn't give lasting happiness. And the second step is Tatparam Purushakyatehe Gunavaitrishnyam. That means the supreme Vairagya. The second step of Vairagya is recognizing what does give me true happiness. And the answer to that, the sages have discovered, the yogis have discovered that the true happiness comes from abiding in the self. When we are in harmony with who we are. That is why in Sanskrit, the word for health is swastha. Swa means self. Stha means to stand or abide by. So when we are with ourself in harmony, that is when we experience exuberant health, happiness, and so forth. That is the true source of joy. So that is the highest dispassion, highest vairagya. So it's a two-step recipe Patanjali gives.
What a fantastic way of what is a good practice and maintaining the exuberant, but also detached from the outcomes as a vairagya, and both are very complementary, as you said, in the Gita, in the Patanjali, and everything. In Rajeshi, and this is also something that you advocate in your books and in your sutras, and there is no free lunch, as you say, which is like the practice and devotional practice to achieve your goals. So what are your reflections on the right practice, particularly for the youth, when they want to achieve any goals? And then also, what's the meaning of vairagya? Why is that critical, something that they would have to cultivate?
So first of all, beautifully explained, Shriramji. I just took notes quickly, all the 4 points and the 2 things. So already I'm upgraded. Thank you so much. So the way I look at things is that I'm all about words. That if you change the word, you'll change your world. That's how I think about it. People say, I have a bias for action. So, and it's become common sensical. I mean, everybody will have a bias for action. But I always think, is there something that we can upgrade if we change one word? So today I wrote, what if we have a bias for contribution? Immediately, it's a new world completely, because action is 50-50. It could be for yourself, it could be for others. Contribution is very clear, it's for others. So the way I look at practice and detachment is, there is no other way to live it, in the sense, what else can we do other than that? Nothing. Why? Because, first of all, if ever we think we did something, it's already flawed. First of all, you didn't give enough credit to luck, isn't it? So, what are the chances that Shriramji and I are on this call without Srini nudging us? Impossible. So, neither Shriramji came here, I came here. Somebody had to nudge. What are the chances that the Zoom thing is working? Every single thing is there. It could be off here, it could be off there, or I could have a bad day, Shriramji could have a bad day. There are innumerable number of things that can go wrong. It's like an AND gate. It's not an OR gate for those of us from electronics. One thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. So immediately, first thing is to recognize that we did not do it ourselves. It has to be all the things that so much has been given to us, so just playing a part. And what is the real practice of contribution? Why we should do contribution rather than take care of ourselves? Sometimes people tell me that, yeah, but I have to take care of myself. It is important to know that while you're contributing is the best way to take care of yourself. Why? Because for you to contribute meaningfully, you should know what the other person cares about, isn't it? Otherwise, it can't be meaningful. You cannot give something that is not relevant to the other person, which means you'll first learn to listen. Second, if it has to be meaningful, either it has to solve a problem for them or it has to open up a possibility for them. Only 2 things. Otherwise, needle does not move. So what happens? Either solving a problem or creating a new possibility or amplifying a possibility means you should look at all the generic knowledge you have, apply it to the specific particular possibility or particular problem, translate it and quickly come up with resources to make something happen. That is the skill of value creation, which is you are building the muscles to create value. Every time you help someone, you are strengthening your muscle of value creation. What other playground is required for us? It's the best thing to happen. In the process, you are building your karma account. You will create, I call it, an oversupply in a reservoir of reciprocation. Whenever you want to do something, you will have push button access to quality help wherever you want, whenever you want, however you need. So then coming to detachment. So think about it. Every time you reached a goal, nobody sat there for 1 year and said, I'm going to relish reaching that goal. Immediately you will think of a new goal. Almost in a fleeting moment, you come in and I crossed this, and then you are on to the new goal. So one of my friends, his name is Dr. Srikumar Rao. So I was telling about a situation where somebody was really upset that they didn't get a promotion. Let's call him John. So Srikumar Rao, Dr. Rao said, John, I know you didn't get the promotion, you're upset about it. But I remembered one thing. Remember when you were a kid, you were always telling me that you really wanted that red fire truck and you didn't get it and you were upset with your dad. You have all the money. Forget about this promotion. Let's go and get that red fire truck. We'll go to this store, Walmart or something. We'll get the red fire truck. So John says, Professor Ram, I have outgrown that red truck. That's just remembering something. That's not important. Then Dr. Rao says, so you have outgrown the red fire truck, but this promotion thing is very important for you. Do you want the skills to outgrow the need for that promotion, or do you want that promotion? That made John, it's like a mic drop moment. Once he dropped the craving for it, within 6 months, he had the promotion not once but twice. Because he's not worried about it. Because whenever you're attached to it, it's like carrying a weight while running a marathon. It's extra baggage. It'll just slow down things. I'm all about just practical things. Like, I just want to know, sometimes people want a logical reason to do something. So, for example, when it comes to happiness, so what is the logical reason? Let's just think about it. I call it threshold resets. There is a threshold for everything. For me to make somebody angry here, sometimes all I have to do is, what kind of a dress are you wearing here? The third person on this. And suddenly they might get really upset and say, what, you are like Rajiv Gandhi or something? What kind of dress you are wearing? I've just said something. So threshold for them to be annoyed is very, very low. Isn't it? But the threshold for happiness, it's very difficult to make people happy if you think about it. Sometimes people may want a candlelit dinner or some expensive gift or something, because the threshold for happiness is very, very high. But who set the threshold? Themselves only. Nobody is setting the threshold for them. In my case, what I did, I kept the threshold to be happy to be extremely low. That means I'm here, I'm already happy. Somebody is smiling, I'm happy. Somebody asked a question, I'm happy. So nobody asked a question, I'm also happy. Because it's very, very low, because I decide when I should be happy. I also set the threshold to be annoyed extremely high. Somebody can try it. It'll be like they have to climb Mount Everest and come back. Still, they'll not make me annoyed. I can pretend to be annoyed, but they'll not make me annoyed because it's my choice. So once you practice it, then it becomes part of you. The thresholds are set, and then you can ask your friends to annoy you. They will not be able to annoy. They will get annoyed trying to annoy you, but they cannot annoy you. Because it's your choice. And it will be fun to do this just to confuse people. I'll stop here, and I think I spoke a lot.
No, this is such a beautiful thing. The way it all flew in, there's so many treasures that I collected. But before I say anything, I would love to, get Shriramji to share something, anything that what Rajesh said, anything that, connected with you, Shriramji.
Very beautiful words, Rajeshji. I learned so much. To borrow your words, I upgraded myself. I need to go and listen to this recording again and again to actually make sure that I capture all the words of wisdom. I'll just make two remarks. So when you were speaking, I was reminded of two things. One is when you pointed out that whatever achievements or success that happens, it's not just because of one's own contributions, or we cannot think that I did it or I am the doer. There's a luck, there are so many people. So in by Shankaracharya, so he gives a very beautiful way. The word that he uses is ahamkara. We usually associate ahamkara with ego, but the true meaning of ahamkara is ahamkarta iti ahamkara. I am the doer. The notion that because of me, this is happening because of me, this success happened, this thought, or because I did so much struggle, the outcome is success. That feeling, I am the doer, is ahankara. So when that drops, then we become an allower rather than a doer. My teacher used to give a very beautiful analogy for this. In TV, you have this antenna, right? What the antenna does is just pick up the signals that's already there and deliver the channel on the screen. The antenna does not claim, oh, I am creating this image for you. It is just downloading or allowing what is already there, and it is beaming the signals to the screen. So that is a very beautiful analogy, I thought. So what that also points to is we can tune, just like we can tune the antenna, the radio dial, like that we can tune our mind so that we allow only creative thoughts, intuitive thoughts, not thoughts of gossip or anger or frustration. So we can actually set our radio dial to actually tune ourselves into high quality thoughts, because most of the thoughts that we imagine in our head are trivial, mundane thoughts. They are not Nobel Prize winning thoughts at all. They're very trivial thoughts like gossip, right? So we can tune ourselves. That is one thing that came to mind. The second thing about not being annoyed, I'm reminded of this beautiful story in the life of the great saint Eknath, Sant Eknath, who lived around the 1600s in Maharashtra. So he was a sage who cannot be frustrated. He cannot be annoyed. So somebody took up this challenge. They said, okay, I will, as Rajesh said, I will do what it takes. Climb Mount Everest, I will do it. So with that determination, they approach Sant Eknath and said, I'm going to annoy this person. I will reveal to the world that he's not really a sage. So what this person did was, after the morning bath in the river, Sant Eknath was coming back to his kutir to do his morning sadhana. And then this guy walks up to Sant Eknath and spits on him, thinking that this will annoy him because he just had a dip in the river. And the Sant Eknath, he didn't say anything. He just turned around, walked back to the river, second dip in the water, and comes back. And our friend was waiting there. So again, he spit on him. And then Sant Eknath didn't get perturbed at all. He simply turned around, goes back to the river, third dip in water. And the story goes that this happened 108 times. Somebody took count, apparently. There was somebody watching. So many number of times. And then, as this was happening, the person who was trying to annoy Sant Eknath, he had an epiphany, or he had a revelation in his mind. What am I doing? This person is really a saint. Why am I making a saint? Why am I trying to reveal the bad parts of that saint? Why am I trying to put him down? Whereas, look at what he is doing. He is bringing the divine quality in others. And I'm trying to do exactly the opposite. So in that moment, he just fell at his feet and said, oh, please accept me as your student. So it reminded me of that, like, not to be annoyed. We can actually transform people by the example that we set. That's exactly what Sant Eknath did.
What a beautiful,
way of explaining. Can I share something, Srini?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving this Jugalbandi. That's the reason. There is a reason why both of you are together. We're going to do more of this. Please continue.
Here is the thing. Like Sant Eknath, it's very difficult to repeat what Sant Eknath did. I mean, in real life, if it happens, somebody will get annoyed. So what do we do? What do we do for in real life? Right now, somebody makes you annoyed. So I have two things that maybe you can I would say, don't want to call them shortcuts. I would say it's smart cuts. So first is to restrict the labels that we apply to anything to only two things. One is either it's a gift or a lesson. So if you have many labels, because whatever label we assign is how we look at the world. Anything that happens, it can only be a gift or a lesson. Suddenly, there is nothing to be annoyed. One is gift is a celebration where there's gratitude. The mood of gratitude will come in. Lesson is the mood of being a student. Like, what am I learning from this? If this extends beyond it, then we do what is called time travel. So time travel means, as like human beings, I don't know whether animals can do it. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. But human beings for sure can go forward, backward. Anytime, sometimes you feel like getting annoyed or upset or anything, just go 10 years forward and look back. Anything you think, it'll look like really small. If you want to know how small it is, just go back 10 years back now and remember something that annoyed you 10 years back. You will not be able to get it because it's too small. Most of them say, I don't even remember anything. So in the grand scheme of things, first of all, we are a blip in the radar. Entire existence of ours, people will have to plot. The dot also will not be there. So why we should get upset for anything that happens now? In the current moment, it looks like really, really big. In the grand scheme of things, it will be nothing. So if you, in Stoicism, there is a practice that people do. It looks like a little bit morbid, but it's like this. Who annoys us more is, in general, it will be people who we love. Somebody that's very close, something small they did, they immediately we become annoyed for whatever reason. It's like a package deal, right? So at that time, there's a practice of every now and then, for a brief less than 20 seconds, you assume that they're gone. They're no longer in this planet. And then you just, it's 20 seconds, right? It's really, really difficult to do it. And you just wait and see how the world will be if they're not there. It will be unbearable. And when you come back, you have a whole new level of appreciation for them. Because you really don't want to miss them. But you think they're there for granted. That one practice alone will be sufficient to have an amazing relationships with everyone. And when it comes to thoughts, if you treat, why do thoughts get messy? First, let's think about it. Any food item, you turn back, there are labels, nutrition labels. The thoughts don't have nutrition labels. They'll come straight as if it's a freeway access to our headspace. But we can treat them like food items and just ask, what is the nutrition label for this thought? Once I asked that question, I stopped watching news or reading newspapers. The last time I read a newspaper was in 1997. Last time I watched news was in 1997. I'm still perfectly fine. I start businesses, everything, because most of the news is an exception. First is to remember that. If it is not an exception, it won't come in the news. Simple things, if they put in the news, it will put you to sleep. It will be like a treatment for insomniacs. It will not work. When everything in news is an exception, and most of it you can't do anything about it anyway, except talk to other people about it. The real news is the news of people that you are connected, where you can do something about it. So because of the tools that we have, we are absent to the person right in front of us, trying to be connected to everywhere in the world where you cannot do anything about. How illogical is it? Isn't it? So once you determine that, every news, anything that gets into your head, there are only two kinds. They're all paying guests. Either you are paying them or they're paying you. If you are paying them, they need to be evicted right now. Because it's your headspace. How can anybody pay for being, how can anybody make us pay for being there? So illegal occupation, we evict them. And as you start becoming more and more meditative, you can actually have conversations with your thoughts. It will be fun. It will be like some thought will be there, some nonsensical thought, and it will say, can I stay in your place? I'll just be one night only, Airbnb kind of facility. You say, no, sir, no. You can take a peek, but you cannot come inside. It will be a fun thing to have. Once only good thoughts are there, it will be so much fun. In my life, I'm 51 years old, I've never uttered a swear word. People don't believe it. It won't even come to me. It's just not there because headspace is mine. How can I allow a swear word to be in there? Those are some of my thoughts.
Awesome, awesome. The way, the beauty here is the way you capture Vedanta, the witness reality, and the yoga in your own kind of frameworks, and the travel time, and the thoughts, taking the headspace and as Airbnb and other things. It's so fascinating, and I think we need to unravel, as Shriram said, we need to go back and listen to your talk, and then internalize each one of them. So let's add some fun to this Jugalbandi. So Savita Garu, so any one thought that stood out for you out of all the things that both Shriramji and Rajesh said, what's the one thing that resonates very well with you?
I just couldn't stop myself from clapping. I just wasn't, the volume wasn't on. So I will do it right now. Both of them, excellent, excellent. I mean, I don't know where to, everything stood out. Everything was a spotlight moment. One thing was this headspace, which to some degree, I believe it's very difficult. And I mean, again, it comes to the yoga abhyasa nirantara. This is something that we need to rewire. Takes a lot of practice again and again. That means we need those people who challenge us too in order to make ourselves perfect. We need those people who challenge us, humiliate us, or whatever it is, to make sure it's actually concrete in our mind. And Shriramji, what you said about ahankara, or what is that? Yeah, that was very nice also. So yeah, I have a question for Rajeshji. You mentioned your smart idea of taking out the labels, not watching, which doesn't add any value to your life. Some people, or whatever we can assume as saying, this person is denial. What do you tell those people? Like, sometimes I say, oh, I don't watch Netflix, or I don't choose that. So am I in denial? Like, am I in like, okay, I want to shut off what's happening in the world. I want to live in my own bubble. Like, what do you tell those people who are constantly connected to what's happening in the world, and like, emotionally reacting to every little things? When they see you, if they say, hey, you're in denial, but this is happening in the world. So what is your advice or your words would be to them?
I cheat a little bit. Basically, what I do is any big Netflix serial, I watch the first 15 minutes of the first episode, last 15 minutes of the last episode. So that way, anybody is talking to me, I immediately take them to where I know. The last piece was really amazing. The climax was really, really good. See, basically, you don't create friction in communication. So basically, if you try to show that you are standing out and everything, then people might also say, he can do it, I can't do it. So just you have to be willing to be blend in and also stand out. So sometimes you want to take somebody from one place to another place. If they don't think that you are one of them, they may stop listening to you, at least internally. Externally, they are there because they can't get out. Internally, they are switched off because he's some kind of a different person. It maybe work for him, it won't work for me. So it's important to blend in and stand out. And once you learn that, I am one of them. I don't take anything seriously. So I come and interrupt the pattern. So I just become one of them. I'm trying to be like, because I can't, because of my Parkinson's, I can't stand for a long time. So I think I'm an amateur sit-down comedy enthusiast. I'll do my best to make people laugh. And sometimes I know that they may not laugh at my jokes, but they will definitely laugh at my attempts to make jokes. One way or the other, I'll bring a smile to them. So once I bring down the sort of a temperature, then it becomes easy. It's all lighthearted. And when it is lighthearted, you can say profound things in a lighthearted fashion. So it makes it like it's general conversation, and you can just say things and people are more receptive to what I'm saying.
That's a very, very wonderful insight. In fact, this morning I was listening to one of the talks on Gita, and I believe Shriramji, you should add more dimension to it. Like, Krishna in the Gita says about there are about 20 qualities that somebody could incorporate in the 13th chapter about something that we could actually include in the Abhyasa, and one of them is the word Arjavam. I think whether I'm saying it, and the way I understood the meaning of the Arjavam is you should have simplicity in your outward appearance, where you can fit among everybody, but you are inside, you have a lot of depth. Depth, you stand out, with your depth. But most of us, we have complexity on the outwards, but we are shallow inside. So that is one of the things that basically said. So Shriramji, so some of the things, you talked a lot about Gita and Yoga Sutra combined in thing. So what are some of the other things that we can use this Abhyasa and Vairagya, the two keys, to create excellence, to create harmony? And it's not just something that we do on the mat, right? It's not just for the yoga practice. It's almost like the way of life. What are the other things that we can use these two things for as a way of life?
It's very interesting. My teacher used to say how these abhyasas came about. Who designs all these practices? Which yogi decided, okay, doing headstand or a shirasasana is good for you. So how do we come up with these abhyasas, right? And the way in which it has been handed down through generations in the tradition of yoga is siddhasya lakshanani sadhakasya sadhanani. That is it's like a sutra. It's not in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, but it's one of the sayings. Siddhasya lakshanani sadhakasya sadhanani. That means the qualities that come naturally for a siddha. That means a perfected yogi or adept yogi. The qualities that come naturally for them becomes the practice for the sadhaka. So a yogi, by nature, they'll be kind, they'll be practicing ahimsa, they'll be truthful, they will not deceive anybody. So observe them. That is why in the Gita, there are so many chapters with, like for example, Sthita Pragya Lakshana, the second chapter, the qualities of a Sthita Pragya. And as you mentioned, in the 13th chapter, there are 5 verses, 7 to 11, verses 7 to 11 in 13th chapter. And it begins with the words, Amanitvam Adambhitvam Ahimsa Kshantirarjavam Acharyopasanam Shaucham Sthiryam Atma Vinigraha. So as you rightly pointed out, Arjavam means simplicity. As they say, simple living, high thinking. So simplicity, many people misassume that happiness means having good physical comforts. Whereas, for example, in very rich countries, a lot of comforts could be there, but yet people might be unhappy. They'll have stress in their mind, etc. So, Swami Bodhanandaji says very beautifully, people are comfortably unhappy. So a lot of comfort, but then still there is unhappiness festering within. So Arjavam means simplicity in how we live, that the comfort is only as much as needed. And then the high thinking, like Mahatma Gandhi, simple living, high thinking, etc. So those 20 qualities that are mentioned in the 13th chapter, they are jnani lakshanas, the qualities of a jnani. And how do we enumerate those qualities? By observing a jnani and identifying how do they live, how do they talk, how do they speak, how do they walk, how do they sit, etc. Observe them, and that becomes our sadhana. Not because somebody thrusts that sadhana upon us, it is because whenever we see excellence, we are inspired by it. That's a very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Yad yad acharati sreshtaha tatta deve taro janaha. That means whenever we see a person who's sreshtaha means exceptional or exalted, somebody who's doing amazing job, excellence in their actions. Like if you hear somebody singing beautifully, then we are inspired by it. So automatically we are inspired by their footsteps. We want to be like them. We want to be in the same level of excellence in whatever art or craft that we are in. So that inspiration, seeing them as an example, so that is what a yogi does. In other words, when we look at a yogi, their natural qualities becomes automatically the sadhana for a sadhaka.
Wow, in a beautiful way. And I think there is more to be explored on this dimension, particularly the Gita's, the 13, the chapter 7 to 11th, as we talked about the 20 qualities. And no wonder, I spent so much time in the Sangat of Rajesh ji and Shriram ji, and that really adds so much value. As Shriram ji, one of the Yoga Sutras that you always refer, Vitaraga Vishayam Vachittam. The more we observe and follow their words and actions and the thoughts, we actually shape our own chitta to embody some of the qualities that they possess. So, our costume take the shape of the container that we're always talking about. So if you always be in the sangat of folks like Rajesh ji and Shriram ji, we also train ourselves to be that. The two things that I took away, Rajesh ji, from what you said earlier. Number one is vairagya is something that I think all of us need to cultivate, as Shriram ji said, to transcend the doership, that to let go of the doership. Abhyasa is something that you do, but without the vairagya, you always equate like, I did this, I achieved this, I'm the CEO, I'm this, I'm touching my toes and so on and so forth. But without the vairagya, without letting go of the doership, you don't really progress. And then the second thing that you actually said, which really added a dimension to me, it is the vairagya is always about the abhyasa is not for you. Whatever the skills that you're cultivating, it has to be in the service of others. And as you rightly said, excellence is adding value. The only definition of excellence for anybody is adding value. That's so simple. If abhyasa is leading to accumulation, then that's not the right practice. When the abhyasa is leading to adding value, then that's the right practice. And that's what the excellence is. So those things kind of formulated in me, and I would have to spend a little bit more. Anything that you would want to say, or Savita, it's about excellence is adding value, not abhyasa should not lead to accumulation, but abhyasa should lead to more of adding value to the others.
I have a few things. Oh.
Yeah, please.
No. Go ahead. See, sorry. Rajesh, please go.
So what I am thinking is, I want to, everybody has bright spot and blind spots. So one of the bright spots is when people like Shriramji will talk. It's so inspiring and they want to do something. But there's a small distinction between knowing more and growing more. So sometimes there is a phantom action people will take. So immediately they will go and say, what is Shriramji saying? The Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I will buy it. And they will buy it and keep it. It will be an ornament on the bookshelf. And they will think, I did take action. At the end, I was so inspired by Shriramji. I took the action. I went to the bookstore, or sometimes Amazon they ordered. That's it. That's a phantom action, which will not do anything. And it will also feel good because somebody comes to their room, there's Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and they can talk about why they got inspired. How, because Shriramji's talk was so good, I brought it. And it will be a talk of the conversation starter. And the other person also will get inspired and they will also bring one book and it will be an ornament there. It will be self-help, not self-help. It will help the shelf that is put there. That's all it will be there. But if you want to really grow more, the only way you can do it is to put it into practice. How do you put it into practice? You take one small thing. Because why people don't take action is because they are very comfortable with the institutions that they are situated in. What is an institution? Institution is how things are. That's an institution. So today they are going, every day they wake up, take a cup of coffee, read the newspaper, all those things, everything that becomes an institution. If they want to change it, all the institutions together will attack in a blitzkrieg format. All of them will come and they'll make sure that they stay there. One of the biggest institution is that they don't want to look not less smart. It's an institution. Because whatever they are doing whatever way they are working on, everybody thinks they are smart. They don't want to look less smart. Any new practice has to start from being an amateur to a master. Then in the amateur phase, they look less smart, not comfortable. That institution will collapse and make them come back. because they want to just do things that make them look less smart. That's something to remember. If you want to grow more, it cannot stop at consumption, it has to have action. The second thing is, what can we learn from any big master like Shriramji? Is to ask a question to Shriramji. Shriramji, what is that I am not seeing that I should be seeing? Not what should I do? What is that I am not seeing? Because only if you see, you can do something with it. If you don't see, it does not exist for us. So, in fact, once you learn, like if you want to become a good storyteller, you have to become a good story observer. If you cannot recognize the stories around you, then what is the point in mastering that there are 5 parts to a story: exposition, conflict, rising action, resolution, denouement? I have the definitions. I can say what a resolution is, how is it different from a rising action, and in the rising action there is also another multiple variant 5-part series, and if you take 24 the series, where is the rising action? I can do everything. But if I cannot recognize the daily stories which we are part of, then you cannot become a good storyteller. So something to remember is like learning to outsee is one skill that we have to develop. How can we see more than what normal everybody is seeing? See more clearly, see more with higher fidelity. Where we live and every single place, wherever, even in this case, if I do an exercise right now at the end of it, where everybody has taken notes, please exchange the notes with everybody else. Just that exercise alone, you will see how much you have missed. And others will see how much they have missed because you have taken on something that others didn't. Even now, I took note. Whenever Shriramji was speaking, I was taking notes. But have I captured everything that Shriramji has told? No, because I could only capture what I could see. If somebody else is taking notes, I want to see it. Immediately you will come to know that you are not seeing everything. It is not a bad thing. It is not a complaint. It is just the fact. That is what it is. Once you recognize it, you become more aware and you become more present. So, like I was given this book called Ichigo Ichi. I've been talking about it. It's the Japanese way of looking at every moment we spend. This moment will not appear ever again. We can all be in the same meeting tomorrow, but this moment is not there. They call Ichigo Ichi as a once in a lifetime experience. This is what it is. I'm so blessed that I am here in the presence of Shriramji and all the people like this, because it's a once in a lifetime experience. I can be there tomorrow morning again with Shriramji, but this moment will not come. If you are present to that level of reverence and respect, you will see the richness with which you will experience life.
What a beautiful way. And I think this is the essence that is sometimes not understood. This is all yoga. Like what Shriramji said in the first panel thing, yoga is not about touching the toes. Yoga is about living every moment to the infinite and being, fully attend to it. And that's a practice that we need to, that's the Abhyasa that we need to cultivate. That's a Abhyasa that we need to cultivate, because this is the moment that is of infinite potential, and do the best. And what a great way that you said, all of us are here, each of us are taking. Why don't we all share our notes to demonstrate that oneness, oneness of, because we are not one individual. We are, the more people that we bring into our existence, we multiply our capacities. And Rajesh, I know that YEC, the Youth Excellence Center, these are the 3 muscles that you're trying to grow, which is like see more, do more, and grow more. See more, do more, and grow more. And that's not by you do it alone. One is with your practices, you improve the capacity, but also bringing in more people into as your own, you improve, you amplify your capacity. What a fantastic way. I know we are crossing the time, and I think this topic we need to explore more. But before we do it, I would want Shriramji and Rajeshji, to reflect on a contemporary modern framework that you fully resonate with, that is very close to the essence of yoga and Gita. So something that you use it and something that you often refer to it in your way of life and in your teaching. Shriramji?
Yes, so let me briefly go back to what Rajesh ji said. I just want to clarify that no, he was referring to me as a master. No, I'm nowhere near mastery. So I'm still a very enthusiastic and a happy student of yoga, and I'm just sharing. I consider myself as like a tour guide. So I've seen a lot of yoga practices in my journey as a student, and I'm just sharing. Oh, these are all the nice places to visit in the city called yoga. And that is what I'm wishing to share with others when I don the hat of a yoga teacher. So I'm just a student sharing the joy of yoga with others. So Sriniji, your question is very interesting. And indeed, there are so many nuggets that we can uncover in today's world where like so many positive things that can be used as I mean, they align with the model that yoga presents as well. For example, um, so perhaps many of us live in the Bay Area, right? The culture of startups, the taking the proactive step to do something, to make a contribution, to be an agent of change, and to be able to uplift the society, uplift the planet, and create a win-win situation where excellence blossoms. So uh, I think there is a very systematic way now that so many startups have come about, and there's a recipe for how to make that happen. It is indeed remarkable to see how if somebody has the inspiration when it strikes their heart, then yes, they can take steps to actually do something about it, take a leadership role and do something about it. So that is amazing to see, taking proactive step. In fact, that's how Patanjali begins describing yoga as Anushasanam. Shasanam means to regulate oneself or to be disciplined in oneself, and Anushasanam, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, he says. Anushasanam means self-discipline. So jumping into the discipline, and so that really is something that resonates deeply the with the yoga wisdom. So that's what comes to mind immediately.
What a beautiful way that you said. And it never clicked for me. Even the Shasanam to Anushasanam. Shasana means you work like an employee. You go fit in and work with the discipline created into an organization. Anushasana means you become an entrepreneur and you create an organization. So, and you set the discipline for yourself. So the shift from the employee to the entrepreneur mindset is nothing but that's a yoga. That's what Patanjali said. You all become the entrepreneurs. You control your own destiny. You set the discipline and you become the change agent in the world. Or you become the disruptor and leading the transformation. And otherwise somebody else will come and disrupt you. Like, somebody invades you and says like, you do this. So the choice is ours, in the yogic path, whether you want to be an employee or be the follower of somebody else's discipline, which is not a bad thing, right? But you can also have the potential to be a change agent. So Rajesh, anything that one of the modern frameworks, I know you're very close buddies with Carolyn Dweck, the growth mindset and other things. So what are the frameworks that stand out for you as something that's very close to the essence of yoga? I'm sure all of them are.
Yeah, it's I keep my life very, very simple. And the way I look at it, when I started learning that Gita, I said 700 verses I cannot manage. What is the number one thing that I should, if I have to pick only one, what it should be? And I picked one, which is attach yourself to the effort, detach from the outcome. And I said, let me practice it first, and then I'll go for the other verses. This alone gave me so much of upside that, because when you attach yourself to the effort, detach from the outcome, the freedom with which you will act will be unbelievable. So I have simple 4 word things. I am here. Anytime I am there, I'll say, I'm here. First, I'll accept it. Because if I fight with reality, then reality always wins. It's just a matter of time. So once I accept it, it's all good. And then it's a mood of acceptance. And then where next? Now that I'm here, what new possibilities exist? And that's the simplest way of applying. Attach yourself to the effort, detach from the outcome. Whatever happens, you accept it, half the problem is solved. You're not worried why I am here, who made you something. I don't have to blame anyone. I'm here, I accept it. And then mood of wonder is what new possibilities exist. So Srini, when you called me to come here, it was few minutes before. And first I accepted it immediately. I'm here. So now when it comes to that, what all can I go? And then if I am fully present, then I can be myself. So now that Sriramji said this, just a tour guide. Now I have to think of the tour guide's message. How many people can we make it reach? That's my new thing. So I'm the one who taking all the notes. So in my definition, now I have a lot of respect for tour guides. If all tour guides were like Sriramji, it will be amazing. So first, I have to thank you. I learned a lot from this, and I'm like I guarantee my work, and the progress is left to God. That's how I live my life.
What a beautiful, beautiful way. And that's what we say at the 10YEC. In fact, we refer to Asatoma Sadgamaya as the entrepreneurship anthem, as each one of us. Asat is untruth. Anytime where there is a status quo, inefficient status quo, that's what we refer to as an inefficient state. And then as our collective journey, whether it's masters and the tour guides, like what Shriramji and Rajeshji and all of them have said, our journey is to go from inefficient to the excellent state, that Sat, that's what a yogi journey is. That's what an entrepreneurship journey is. And that's what today's youth need to represent. So we're going to explore more about some of the modern frameworks of, Carl Dweck's, growth mindset, the Japanese, Kaizen, and then also Stephen Covey, some of the 7 habits of, successful people, and some of those things. And what fascinates me more is all these saints, all these rishis, they reveal the same truths, in their own way, in their own locale, but they all connect back to what is being revealed in the Gita, what is being, revealed by Sage Patanjali or Abhyasa or Shankara. Everything comes together, and that's the beauty of the oneness in the world. Only if you can see more, as Rajesh said, not see less, where we all say it's like, hey, these are all different, my way is right, or my truth is, but if you transcend and started seeing more, then the truth becomes absolute and one. So with that, let's spend about 5 to 10 minutes. If anybody has, 1 or 2 questions, now that we have both Rajesh and Shriramji here, if there are any questions, please open up your video and then ask your question.
I have a question, Sriniji. So most of the organizations here right now, they are praying for the Ukrainians, right? For their well-being, yeah. So most of the great guys over here, they have already read Bhagavad Gita. So what do you think that Lord Krishna is going to listen to the prayers of those people who are suffering right now? What if we all pray just for one person who is letting it happen, because of whom it happened? So don't you think that Lord Krishna will have less? I mean, it's just kind of funny also, but don't you think Lord Krishna will have less work to do just to work on one person rather than working on the rest of the Ukrainians? Do you get the question?
Yeah. Sorry. I think it's more of, let's make sure I interpreted it. You're essentially looking at the current situation where Russia is invading the Ukraine. And then, what is, the Krishna's role in this situation, whether it needs to take care of the people who are suffering, or, take care of the one person, perhaps, who could be the reason or the catalyst for all this conflict. And what does that Abhyadana Madharmasya Tadatmaram Srijamyaham, what does the Krishna actually does it? I would love to hear Shriramji and Rajesh's perspective on how does the Krishna's Leela manifest? Number one, why it happened, and then what is going to happen, and what is this Leela all about?
Thank you.
First, let me share it, because out of syllabus question for me, because my level of knowledge is not that great. First of all, I don't read newspapers, I don't watch news. If I say something, I'll be making up, but I would like to hear anybody else who is saying. I'll just take good notes.
Okay. Shriramji, this Leela, actually, this is a very fascinating thing, and but love to have your perspective on it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and clearly there is no easy solution or easy answers. Like, this is opportunity to go deeper, contemplate. At every time and age, there have been conflicts, right from Kurukshetra war in the Bhagavad Gita times to now. There have always been conflicts, and the conflicts have created change, and conflicts have given rise to heroes. Without Ravana, there is no Rama, right? And clearly we see heroes here right now in this war. There are heroes that are created, which is already there. The potential was already there. And when a challenge arises, the hero within each one's heart will blossom to its fullness. It's like seed planted on the ground, and in the right conditions, it blossoms to its fullness. Now, what can we do about it? I just want to mention one sutra that Patanjali gives. No, he talks about sometimes the mind is tempted towards the opposite of the yamas and niyamas. So yama niyama says ahimsa, practice satya, practice shaucha, cleanliness, and so forth. There are many values that it gives, and Bhagavad Gita also, like the 20 values that we saw in the 13th chapter. When the mind has an opposite thought, for example, a thought of violence, Patanjali says something very interesting. He says, Vitarka himsadayaha krita karita anumodita. That means whether a thought of violence and somebody expresses violence through their actions, so they commit violence, they've gone in conflict of the yamas, so they will have karmic consequences, whether they do it or whether they ask somebody else to do it, or, so here's the interesting part, whether we allow violence to happen, we are just a passive bystander if we don't do anything about it. There's literally no difference between the three, you see. So we are a perpetrator if we are simply watching, not doing anything about it. There are ways in which we can make a change, even a tiny change, just like in the Ramayana. You see, even a squirrel makes a contribution, even a tiny thing. So what is it that I can do, what I'm called to do? How can I invoke a little bit of that heroism within me and blossom it to fullness? It is for something all of us to contemplate about.
What a beautiful way. And this is something that I again realize, in being the Sangat of, Shriramji and Rajeshji, even the right interpretation of Bhagavad Gita for me, when it says, Abhyadhanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham, when you interpret that tadatmanam, I doesn't mean an external Krishna with the Shankha Chakra. That I is you. That you, even when the war, as Shriramji said, when the war is happening somewhere far out in a Kurukshetra that's out there, that Kurukshetra directly represents what's happening around us. So even if you are playing the role of Anumodita, is a passive bystander, someday that's going to come and sit in your own door. So the thing is, take ownership, tadatmanam, play your own role, whether it is a squirrel role or even sharing this knowledge of yoga, sharing the love of compassion, so that these conflicts don't happen in other places. They're also playing an active role. But just by being a bystander, not doing anything, what happens is you only allow the adharma to continue more. So that's one of the interpretation that I basically interpreted is the Krishna, when he said it's not a Krishna as an external divinity, the Krishna is within us. Tadatmanam srijamyaham. I invoke the Krishna Tattva within, and then I take responsibility to restore the Dharma, which is the peace and excellence. So that interpretation makes sense. So now what that means, how do you let the Krishna within you to restore the balance, restore the peace, and restore the justice? is something for us to contemplate and then express our solidarity. It's something. So all of us are responsible. This world is one, even though there are 8 billion people and then the big universe. I think, when we all see this as one mind, one body, and that's when the magic happens, is oneness. And sometimes these are the opportunities to realize that we are not an isolated beings. We're all oneness, and that's probably the reason why adharma gets set in, so that we then again connect back. In fact, there is a book that was given from Stanford. It's called Paradise in Hell. Only in situations like this, you actually see more superheroes emerge, like the squirrels and other things, who are doing extraordinary, demonstrating the divine qualities. So let's shift our focus, and then let's also invoke the Krishna within. So with that, if there is a Raghu, let's get your question, and then we'll wrap up today's session.
Sure. Thanks, Sriniji. Yeah, this question is for Rajesh ji, and you're not interacted as much, but you just piqued my curiosity to give a quick summary of your practice of yoga from almost 15 years, 2 decades, close to. So just some insights, some things that have worked for you. If you may please.
Very good question. See, I just practiced whatever my teacher was saying, Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev. And then I never thought anything changed, because I was the same person. The way I incorporate the practice is I upgrade my being. Suppose, let's say, anything that I do, I think, will I be interested in it for next 10 years? If I'm not, then I won't even start. So that way it's not big enough. So writing, I've been writing 1 page every day since I'm 10 years old, except for during those 1 or 2 years when I lost my ability to write, I stopped. But otherwise, the way I think about it, if it becomes a practice, if I upgrade my being, I should track when I missed, not when I did, because people track chain, that I should not break it. There's nothing to break, because there's nothing to track. If I'm the new me has already incorporated, there's nothing, it's always there. If I break it, I will track it. So once just the change itself will make it more peaceful, because I'm not thinking I'm practicing, I'm just being. So I realized that something is working when other people's, somebody would say, how are you so calm all the time? And I say, I'm calm. I didn't realize that I'm calm. So only other people will start noticing it. And I could not get angry, even if I wanted to. The last time I got angry was only when I pretended I was angry. Even that one people will make out. Just don't do it, kind of thing. So, and most of the time, it's a compounding effect rather than, if it is tomorrow morning, there will be no effect, right? Because you will be the same person. 10 years from now, you will get results that other people cannot easily replicate unless they also put in the 10 years. So, and it percolates all aspects of life. So if you are giving a speech, or if you are bidding for some big contract, everywhere, the less perturbed you are, more powerful you are, isn't it? So like Shriramji talked about Sthita Prajna. It's like balanced all the time, like quest for tranquility at any cost. So I just look at how do I put it in words. That's what I say. Because if I tell people that, how are you so calm? If I tell them, just practice yoga for 10 years, then they'll think it's a cop-out response. People are looking for, what can I do today evening when I go home? How can I be calm? That's why I came up with this 2 labels, gift or a lesson. It will not get them to the 100% there, but it will get them to 70% there, which is way beyond what they were doing before. So it's just, and anytime something bad happens and like should not have happened, always tell them, there is something called hidden blessings. You always ask this question, what are the hidden blessings when this is happening? Immediately you become a detective to detect good hidden in plain sight. So there's always something good there. So ask a question, always standard question. what do you think are the hidden blessings in this situation? Now, immediately you get into the mode of you have to find it, because if you just don't ask that question, it'll all look like something wrong, bad. And if you don't find it, you always look at it this way. Without night, day has no meaning. Without darkness, light has no meaning. So somewhere contrast characters have to be there so that we can appreciate the good ones. I always think the contrast is here.
What a beautiful
Does it
way.
help?
And yeah. And I think it's so fantastic. Thank you so much, Raghu, for asking that question. And my wonder, just doesn't allow me to stop here. I wish, this Ganga Pravaham can continue for more time. And one thought that as you're speaking, Rajeshji, this actually mapped to some of the Yoga Sutras that I learned from Shriramji about, Kramanyatvam Parinamanyatve Hetu, how does the transformation, you're constantly upgrading yourself, to lead to a better transformation without you yourself knowing it. Only other people see it, but it's just, and then the other thing that Shriramji, the way you beautifully map to the one, I believe that's one of the longest sutra, which is about, the acts of violence and so on and so forth. But one thing that also occurred to me as you were talking about, Patanjali also says, Mrudu Madhyadi Anumatra, one of the dimensions. A war doesn't happen overnight. It's not a binary. Usually the conflict starts in small things. Even the World War II didn't happen in the thing. It has been brooding that adharma is settling in, driven by whatever lobha, krodha, moha, purvaka, whatever the thing is. So what it is a lesson that we can all do is, this is already happening. The conflict has been in the making, in the smaller intensity, medium intensity, and so on and so forth. When you don't take the corrective action, it's going to result in a bigger conflict. Only now many people are woken up, but the war has been happening for a long time. So the revelation of the Patanjali is, that we always have to be vigilant. Whenever there is an adharma in the medium intensity, in whatever the role that is happening, be the change agent, try to restore the dharma. If you don't do it, then it actually results in dukkha jnana ananta phala, which is being perhaps manifested. That's what occurred to me. Any closing thoughts? Shriramji?
So Sriniji, that was very beautiful wisdom point from the Yoga Sutras. Very beautiful point about, a yogi is so sensitive that they recognize the seeds of harmony even before it sprouts and becomes a very big tree that becomes difficult to chop it off later. So when it was in a very subtle form, you can easily sweep the seeds away. As Vyasa in his commentary on the Yoga Sutras, he describes, burn the seeds of disharmony even before they sprout. So Patanjali says, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. That means don't wait for the problem to become so big. Take some do preventative action. Many people don't give importance to that because it is not a very sensational thing. You can't make a movie out of it. Only when somebody becomes so ill and then heroism comes, or when it becomes a war. So yogi will take action much before, because they are so sensitive, they're able to recognize the seeds of disharmony that are lurking within, and they will take action to prevent some future disharmony from taking place. So as you pointed out, mrudu madhyadi matratva tatopi visheshaha. So mrudu, madhya, and adhimatra. So mrudu, like the subtle form, and then madhya, medium, and then adhimatra, that means in a giant form. So when it is in the subtle stages, it's very easy to remove that. So that's a very powerful point to remember. And it also underscores the value of yoga practices, because one of the benefits of yoga practices is that it prevents future illness from taking place. If somebody has done yoga for, say, 5 years, that means how many future ailments they have removed. They may not know themselves. We don't realize that. The first time it awakened me to this point is, a few years back, I taught a yoga workshop for doctors and nurses in New York, in a hospital. And I remember, because the healthcare community, the professionals are so stressed out. And we were doing very simple practices, breath-body synchronization. And even that was so relaxing to them. At the end of the session, people were happily relaxing and snoring. Some of them were in deep sleep. And then later they said that, oh, without sleeping pills, I was able to go into deep slumber. So relaxing it was. So the point is, there are many practices that perhaps I took for granted. It's simple, just raise your arms up and down, but it is so powerful and it can actually prevent the future disharmony from arising. And it's just amazing.
Wow, what a way. I'm a big witness of that own experience. I wish I had learned this wisdom much before, but nevertheless, I start on the journey at the age of 38 and so many accidents that I prevented. That's one way of looking at it, but there's so much prosperity that's also resulted. So on that note, let's be reminded of our call to action of Abhyadana Madharmasya, that we need to impart this wisdom in the young minds when they are young, so that they become the change agents to create a better, excellent world. So on that note, let's wrap up today's session, and I'm sure we'll have more explorations in the subsequent sessions. Everybody will do the final chanting. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We wish everybody to be happy. We wish everybody to be free of sorrow and illness. We wish everybody to hear and see only auspicious things, and let there be peace everywhere. These wonderful thoughts. Thank you all for joining and sharing your yoga journey with all of us on this beautiful Saturday. And what a beautiful, magical night. This has been my dream to have both Shriramji and Rajeshji, two of my gurus who shared so much of wisdom with me, to be on the same platform. And it just happened just a few minutes before. And as Rajesh said, that's how accidents happen. That's how magic happens. And let's all over to Krishna and Krishna's Leela. And we'll see you again next Saturday. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.